The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. The Master Wealth Builder's complete and original lesson plan for achieving your dreams.
Every mind, both a broadcasting and a receiving station. This author has proved, time too numerous to enumerate, to his own satisfaction at least, that every human brain is both a broadcasting and a receiving station for vibrations of thought frequency. If this theory should turn out to be a fact, and methods of reasonable control should be established, imagine the part it will play in gathering, classifying, and organizing of knowledge. The possibility, much less the probability, of such a reality staggers the mind of man. Thomas Paine was one of the great minds of the American Revolutionary period. To him more, perhaps, than to any other one person, we owe both the beginning and the happy ending of the Revolution, for it was his keen mind that both helped in drawing up the Declaration of Independence and in persuading the signers of that document to translate it into terms of reality. In speaking of the source of his great storehouse of knowledge, Paine thus described it: any person who has made observations on the state of progress of the human mind by observing his own cannot but have observed that there are two distinct classes of what we are called thoughts: those that we produce in ourselves by reflection in the act of thinking, and those that bolt into the mind of their own accord. I have always made it a rule to treat these voluntary visitors with civility, taking care to examine, as well as I was able, if they were worth entertaining, and it is from them I have acquired all the knowledge that I have. As to the learning that any person gains from school education, it serves only like a small capital to put him in the way of beginning learning for himself afterwards. Every person of learning is finally his own teacher, the reason for which is that principles cannot be impressed upon the memory. Their place of mental residence is the understanding, and they are never so lasting as when they begin by conception.
Every failure is a blessing in disguise, providing it teaches some needed lesson one could not have learned without it. Most so-called failures are only temporary defeats.
In the foregoing words, Paine, the great American patriot and philosopher, described an experience which, at one time or another, is the experience of every person. Who is there so unfortunate as not to have received positive evidence that thoughts and even complete ideas will pop into the mind from outside sources? What means of conveyance is there for such visitors except the ether? Ether fills the boundless space of the universe. It is the medium of conveyance for all known forms of vibration such as sound, light, and heat. Why should it not be? Also, the medium of the conveyance of the vibration of thought. Every mind or brain is directly connected with every other brain by means of the ether. Every thought released by any brain may be instantly picked up and interpreted by all other brains that are in rapport with the sending brain. This author is sure of the fact as he is that the chemical formula H2O will produce water. Imagine, if you can, what a part this principle plays in every walk of life. Nor is the probability of ether being a conveyor of thought from mind to mind the most astounding of its performances. It is the belief of this author that every thought vibration released by any brain is picked up by the ether and kept in motion in circuitous wavelengths corresponding in length to the intensity of the energy used in their release, that these vibrations remain in motion forever, but they are one of the two sources from which thoughts which pop into one's mind emanate, the other source being direct and immediate contact through the ether with the brain releasing the thought vibration. Thus, it will be seen that this theory is a fact of the boundless space of the whole universe and is now and will continue to become literally a mental library wherein may be founded all the thoughts released by mankind. The author is here laying the foundation for one of the most important hypotheses enumerated in the lesson self-confidence, a fact which the student should keep in mind as he approaches that lesson. This is a lesson on organized knowledge. Most of the useful knowledge to which the human race has become heir has been preserved and accurately recorded in nature's Bible. By turning back the pages of this unaltered Bible, man has read the story of the terrific struggle through and out of which the present civilization has grown. The pages of this Bible are made up of the physical elements of which this earth and other planets consist, and of the ether which fills all space. By turning back the pages written on stone and covered near the surface of this earth on which he lives, man has uncovered the bones, skeletons, footprints, and other unmistakable evidence of the history of animal life on this earth, planted there for his enlightenment and guidance by the hand of Mother Nature throughout unbelievable periods of time. The evidence is plain and unmistakable. The great stone pages of nature's Bible found on this earth and the endless pages of that Bible represented by the ether wherein all past human thought has been recorded constitute an authentic source of communication between the Creator and man. This Bible has begun before man had reached the thinking stage. Indeed, before man had reached the amoeba, one-cell animal stage of development. The Bible is above and beyond the power of man to alter. Moreover, it tells its story not in the ancient dead languages or hieroglyphics of half-savage races, but in a universal language which all who have eyes may read. Nature's Bible, from which we have derived all the knowledge that is worth knowing, is one that no man may alter or in any manner tamper with. The marvelous discovery yet made by man is that of the recently discovered radio principle, which operates through the aid of ether, an important portion of nature's Bible. Imagine the ether picking up the ordinary vibration of sound and transforming that vibration from audio frequency into radio frequency, carrying it into a properly attuned receiving station and there transforming it back to its original form of audio frequency, all in the flash of a second. It should surprise no one that such a force could gather up the vibration of thought and keep that vibration in motion forever. The established and known fact of instantaneous transmission of sound through the agency of the ether by means of the modern radio apparatus removes the theory of transmission of thought vibration from mind to mind, from the possible to the probable. The Mastermind. We come now to the next step in the description of the ways and means by which one may gather, classify, and organize useful knowledge through harmonious alliance of two or more minds, out of which grows a mastermind. The term mastermind is abstract and has no counterpart in the field of known facts except to a small number of people who have made a careful study of the effect of one mind upon other minds. This author has searched in vain through all the textbook essays available on the subject of the human mind, but nowhere has been found even the slightest reference to the principle here described as the mastermind. The term first came to the attention of the author through an interview with Andrew Carnegie in the manner described in Lesson 1. Chemistry of the Mind. It is the author's belief that the mind is made up of the same universal fluid energy as that which constitutes the ether which fills the universe. It is a fact as well known to the layman as to the man of scientific investigation that some minds clash the moment they come in contact with each other, while other minds show a natural affinity for each other. Between the two extremes of natural antagonism and natural affinity, growing out of the meeting or contacting of minds, there is a wide range of possibility for varying reactions of mind upon mind. Some minds are so naturally adapted to each other that love at first sight is the inevitable outcome of the contact. Who has not known of such an experience? In other cases, minds are so antagonistic that violent mutual dislike shows itself at first meeting. These results occur without a word being spoken and without the slightest signs of any of the usual causes for love and hate acting as a stimulus. It is quite probable that the mind is made up of a fluid or substance or energy, call it what you will, similar to, if not in fact, the same substance as the ether. When two minds come close enough to each other to form a contact, the mixing of the units of this mind stuff, let us call it electrons of the ether, sets up a chemical reaction and starts vibrations which affect the two individuals pleasantly or unpleasantly. The effect of the meeting of two minds is obvious to even the most casual observer. Every effect must have a cause. What could be more reasonable than to suspect that the cause of the change in mental attitude between two minds which have just come in close contact is none other than the disturbance of the electrons or units of each mind in the process of rearranging themselves in the new field created by the contact. For the purpose of establishing this lesson, Upon the sound foundation, we have gone a long way towards success by admitting that the meeting or coming in close contact of two minds set up in each of those minds a certain noticeable effect or state of mind quite different from the one existing immediately prior to the contact. While it is desirable, it is not essential to know what is the cause of this reaction of mind upon mind. That the reaction takes place in every instance is a known fact which gives us a starting point from which we may now show what is meant by the term mastermind.
To believe in the heroic makes heroes. Disarelli.
A mastermind may be created through the bringing together or blending in a spirit of perfect harmony of two or more minds. Out of this harmonious blending, the chemistry of the mind creates a third mind which may be appropriated and used by one or all of the individual minds. This mastermind will remain available as long as the friendly, harmonious alliance between the individual minds exists. It will disintegrate and all evidence of its former existence will disappear the moment that friendly alliance is broken. The principle of mind chemistry is the basis and cause for practically all the so-called soulmate and internal triangle cases, so many of which unfortunately find their way into the divorce courts and meet with popular ridicule from ignorant and uneducated people who manufacture vulgarity and scandal out of one of the greatest of nature's laws. The entire civilized world knows that the first 2 or 3 years of association after marriage are often marked by much disagreement of a more or less petty nature. These are the years of adjustment. If the marriage survives them, it is more than apt to become a permanent alliance. These facts no experienced married person will deny. Again, we will see the effect without understanding the cause. While there are other contributing causes, yet in the main lack of harmony during these early years of marriage is due to the slowness of the chemistry of the minds in blending harmoniously. Stated differently, the electrons are units of the energy called the mind and often neither extremely friendly nor antagonistic upon first contact, but through constant association they gradually adapt themselves in harmony, except in rare cases where association has the opposite effect of leading eventually to open hostility between these units. It is a well-known fact that after a man and woman have lived together for 10 to 15 years, they become practically indispensable to each other, even though there may not be the slightest evidence of the state of mind called love. Moreover, this association in relationships sexually not only develops a natural affinity between the two minds, but it actually causes the two people to take on a similar facial expression and to resemble each other closely in many other marked ways. Any competent analyst of human nature can easily go into a crowd of strange people and pick out the wife after having been introduced to her husband. The expression of the eyes, the counter of the faces, and the tone of the voices of people who have long been associated in the marriage become similar to marked degree. So marked is the effect of the chemistry of the human mind that any experienced public speaker may quickly interpret the manner in which his statements are accepted by his audience. Antagonism in the mind of but one person in an audience of 1,000 may be readily detected by the speaker who has learned how to feel and register the effects of antagonism. Moreover, the public speaker can make these interpretations without observing or in any manner being influenced by the expression on the faces of those in his audience. On account of this fact, an audience may cause a speaker to rise to great heights of oratory or heckle him into failure, without making a sound or denoting a single expression of satisfaction or dissatisfaction through the features of the face. All master salesmen know the moment the psychological time for closing has arrived, not by what the prospective buyer says, but from the effect of the chemistry of his mind is interpreted or felt by the salesman. Words often belie the intentions of those speaking them, but a correct interpretation of the chemistry of the mind leaves no loophole for such a possibility. Every able salesman knows that the majority of buyers have the habit of affecting a negative attitude almost to the very climax of a sale. Every able lawyer has developed a sixth sense whereby he is enabled to feel his way throughout the most artfully selected words of the clever witness who is lying and correctly interpret that which is in the witness's mind through the chemistry of the mind. Many lawyers have developed this ability without knowing the real source of it. They possess this technique without the scientific understanding upon which it is based. Many salesmen have done the same thing. One who is gifted in the art of correctly interpreting the chemistry of the mind of others may, figuratively speaking, walk in at the front door of the mansion of a given mind and leisurely explore the entire building, noticing all its details, walking out again with a complete picture of the interior of the building without the owner of the building so much as knowing that he has entertained a visitor. It will be observed in this lesson accurate thinking that this principle may be put to a very practical use, having reference to the principle of the chemistry of the mind. The principle is referred to merely as an approach to the major principles of this lesson. Enough has already been stated to introduce the principle of mind chemistry and to prove, with the aid of the student's own everyday experiences and casual observations, that the moment two minds come within a close range of each other, a noticeable mental change takes place in both, sometimes registering in the nature of antagonism and at other times registering in the nature of friendliness. Every mind has what might be termed an electric field. The nature of this field varies, depending upon the mood of the individual mind back of it and upon the nature of the chemistry of the mind creating the field. It is believed by this author that the normal or natural conditions of the chemistry of any individual mind is the result of his physical hereditary plus the nature of thoughts which have dominated that mind, that every mind is continuously changing to the extent that the individual's philosophy and general habits of thought change the chemistry of his or her own mind. These principles the author believes to be true, that any individual may voluntarily change the chemistry of his or her mind so that it will either attract or repel all with whom it comes in contact is a known fact. Stated in another manner, any person may assume a mental attitude which will attract and please others or repel and antagonize them, and this without the aid of words or facial expression or other form of bodily movement or demeanor. Go back now to the definition of a mastermind, a mind which grows out of the blending and coordination of two or more minds, in a spirit of perfect harmony, and you will catch the full significance of the word harmony as it is used here. Two minds will not blend, nor can they be coordinated unless the element of perfect harmony is present, wherein lies the secret of success or failure of practically all business and social partnerships. Every sales manager and every military commander and every leader in any other walk of life understands the necessity of an esprit de corps, a spirit of common understanding and cooperation in the attainment of success. This mass spirit of harmony of purpose is obtained through discipline, voluntary or force, of such a nature that the individual minds become blended into a mastermind, by which is meant that the chemistry of the individual minds is modified in such a manner that these minds blend and function as one. The methods through which this blending process takes place are as numerous as the individuals engaged in the various forms of leadership. Every leader has his or her own method of coordinating the minds of the followers. One will use force, another uses persuasion. One will play upon the fear of penalties, while another plays upon rewards in order to reduce the individual minds of a given group of people to where they may be blended into a mass mind. The student will not have to search deeply into history of statesmanship, politics, business, or finance to discover the technique employed by the leaders in these fields in the process of blending the minds of the individuals into a mass mind. The really great leaders of this world, however, have been provided by nature with a combination of mind chemistry favorable as a nucleus of attraction for other minds. Napoleon was a notable example of a man possessing the magnetic type of mind, which had a very deciding tendency to attract all minds with which it came in contact. Soldiers followed Napoleon to a certain death without flinching, because of the impelling or attracting nature of his personality, and that personality was nothing more nor less than the chemistry of his mind.
If you do not believe in cooperation, look what happens to a wagon that loses a wheel.
No group of minds can be blended into a mastermind if one of the individuals of that group possesses one of those extremely negative, repellent minds. The negative and positive minds will not blend in the sense here described as a mastermind. Lack of knowledge of this fact has brought many an otherwise able leader to defeat. Any able leader who understands this principle of mind chemistry may temporarily blend the minds of practically any group of people so that it will represent a mass mind, but the composition will disintegrate almost the very moment the leader's presence is removed from the group. The most successful life insurance sales organizations and other sales forces meet once a week or more often for the purpose of what? For the purpose of merging the individual minds into a mastermind, which will, for a limited number of days, serve as a stimulus to the individual minds. It may be, and generally is, true that the leaders of this group does not understand what actually takes place in these meetings, which are usually called pep meetings. The routine of such meetings is usually given over to talks by the leader and other members of the group, and occasionally from someone outside of the group. Meanwhile, the minds of the individuals are contacting and recharging one another. The brain of a human being may be compared to an electric battery in that it will become exhausted or run down, causing the owner of it to feel despondent, discouraged, and lacking in pep. Who is so fortunate as never to have had such a feeling? The human brain, when in this depleted condition, must be recharged, and the manner in which this is done is through contact with a more vital mind or minds. The great leaders understand the necessity of this recharging process, and moreover, they understand how to accomplish this result. This knowledge is the main feature which distinguishes a leader from a follower. Fortunate is a person who understands this principle sufficiently well to keep his or her brain vitalized or recharged by periodically contacting it with a more vital mind. Sexual contact is one of the most effective of the stimuli through which a mind may be recharged, providing the contact is intelligently made between man and woman who have genuine affection for each other. Any other such sexual relationship is a devitalizer of the mind. Any competent practitioner of psychotherapeutics can recharge a brain within a few minutes. Before passing away from the brief reference made to sexual contacts as a means of revitalizing depleted mind, it seems appropriate to call attention to the fact that all of the great leaders in whatever walks of life they have arisen have been and are people of highly sexed natures. The word sex is not an indecent word. You'll find it in all the dictionaries. There's a growing tendency upon the part of the best informed physicians and other health practitioners to accept the theory that all diseases begin when the brain of the individual is in a depleted or devitalized state. Stated in another way, it is a known fact that a person who has perfectly vitalized brain is practically, if not entirely, immune from all manner of disease. Every intelligent health practitioner of whatever school or type knows that the nature of the mind cures diseases in every instance where a cure is effected. Medicines, faith, laying of the hands, chiropractic, osteopathy, and all other forms of outside stimuli are nothing more than artificial aids to nature, or, to state it correctly, mere methods of setting the chemistry of the mind into motion to the end that it readjusts the cells and tissues of the body, revitalizing the brain, and otherwise causes the human machine to function normally. The most orthodox practitioner will admit the truth of this statement. What, then, may be the possibilities of the future developments in the field of mind chemistry? Through the principle or harmonious blending of the minds, perfect health may be enjoyed. Through the aid of this same principle, sufficient power may be developed to solve the problem of economic pressure which constantly presses upon every individual. We may judge the future possibilities of mind chemistry by taking inventory of its past achievements, keeping in mind the fact that these achievements have been largely the result of accidental discovery and of chance groupings of minds. We are approaching the time when the professors of universities will teach mind chemistry the same as other subjects are now taught. Meanwhile, study and experimentation in connection with this subject open vistas of possibilities for the individual student.